With stress and anxiety increasing, how can faith play a role in helping people that are suffering from it?
Here it's very important to think back to what is the purpose of stress and anxiety. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all emotions, He created emotions and didn't label them the way we humans do. Sometimes we label emotions as good and bad. We say things like stress and anxiety or depression, these are bad. And we'll say things like happiness and joy, these are good. And we'll actually put a lot of guilt, we'll feel lots of guilt and even shame related to certain emotions versus others. What's important to remember is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all emotions. So if you look at the verses in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically reminds us, and He says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. That He reminds us that we as humans will surely be tested with something of fear and loss of wealth and lives and crops. This is very important because it's part and parcel of the world in which we live. This dunya, this abode of tribulation, dar al-bala, which is very different than the akhirah and Jannah, in which we will not have any tribulations. And when we think about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that these difficulties are meant to come our way, at some point in our life, we will face some amount of difficulty, and everyone is different. Some people will have their test and trials will come in loss of wealth. Others, it'll be loss of health. And for others, it might be loss of loved ones in their lives. And for some, it's a combination of all or different ones that are tribulations to them. It's not so much about which tribulation comes our way, because like the ayah says, they're meant to come. It's about what we do with this difficulty. What do we do with the stress? What do we do with these anxieties? Well, here's where the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he reminds us, تَدَاوُوا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ, seek out treatments, O servants of Allah. And that means that there are, in fact, treatments that help for the kind of difficulties we face. So when someone has stress, there are ways to modulate that stress. Entire sciences related around this. And some of these techniques or tips are learned in therapy. People wonder sometimes, what is the point of therapy? Is it just talking and somebody else listening who's not even part of your family or related to you? What good or use is that? No. When you go to therapy, these are people who are trained as professionals and have learned the techniques to help you with certain difficulties you're facing, such as stress or anxiety. And it means that you're going to a person of knowledge. Here too we look to the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says and reminds us that when we do not know, we must ask the people of knowledge who do know. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. So if you're sitting here thinking, I have a lot of stress, or I have a lot of anxieties, and I don't know what to do about them, what does your religion say to you? It says, seek out the people of knowledge who do know and have learned the techniques to help you along. That is part and parcel of what therapy is all about. Maybe you might have a condition that's actually biologically driven or has a genetic loading to it, and it may mean that it's more than just therapy that's going to be needed. Maybe you might need medications here too. But we won't know, and you won't know unless you consult with the people of knowledge who have been trained, and they're able to do an assessment and figure out for you, is therapy sufficient? Is medications needed? Perhaps both. Or could the roots and the origins of the stress be something different? Maybe it's environmental, social, something difficulties happening in your life. Maybe you've experienced the trauma and need to process that. Or maybe it's something spiritual. And it could be a combination of all of these things, because mental illnesses are in fact multifactorial. They come from different perspectives. And depending on that comes your treatment, which your deen also tells you to seek out treatments and help. So knowing the background, understanding why these emotions come to us in the first place, and then having our religion tell us to seek out the help needed and to seek out the people of knowledge who have this information is part and parcel of how you heal and how you get better, inshallah.